Showtime!
It's about that time.
Let's go!
You're right where you need to be. This is GCOM Radio.
Hardest radio station on the planet. Yeah!
Powered by Lyfeblood.com.
We certified.
And hosted by Nova Phoenix and LK Mason.
Give them that flavor.
Yes. This is Nova Phoenix, the host of GCOM Radio on iHeartRadio, and we have returned for another episode. So I'm not gonna get into all the, what was going on for the week, because there's a lot to go over in this show. So I'm just gonna get right to it. So as you know from the last episode, I was talking about Sudan and what was going on the ground. A whole lot of people got killed, unfortunately, over 100 people, and the people protesting when the military ran a coup on the former president of Sudan, Omar al-Bashir, and they wanted a civilian government. Unfortunately, with the military taking over, they killed a lot of people, and of course it is because of the control of power in Sudan. So you know how that goes with, as I said before, with the Lord of the Rings reference. The ring. Everybody wants precious, the power, and that's been going on since the beginning of human history. So since we had that show last week talking about Sudan, this is just going on with just going over how these things come about and what are the solutions for the Sudanese people. So since we spoke about that, the TMC, that's the Transitional Military Council, pretty much, I guess, the talking heads of the military that overthrew the Sudanese government, they came to an agreement. They came into agreement with the opposition alliance to create a sovereign council. It's the top tier power in the government for over the next 3 years. And they agreed to form an independent technocratic government and to investigate the violence that happened in recent weeks. And of course, this was by the help of the Ethiopian Prime Minister and the African Union. The two sides agreed to a sovereign council with a rotating military and civilian presidency over the next 3 years. And that was said by the African Union mediator Mohammed Hassan Labat. And the military agreed for the first 21 months they would have control, and the following 18 months it would be a civilian-run administration until the civilian government takes full control. Unfortunately, there are some that feel that that's not going to happen. There was a Sudanese political commentator by Khulud Khair that said that the first 18 months just looks like the military is trying to consolidate power, bring up the walls around them, and to just buy their time until they can have a full a foothold on the Sudanese government. And the people still don't know the details that came about from this deal because there's still an internet blackout. So there is skepticism. It's a first start. So big ups to the Ethiopian Prime Minister really stepping up and taking part of that whole deal to come together for the Sudanese people. And of course, you can't move forward without having justice for those that died. So many people just wanting justice and fairness within their country, and then to end up dead. And there's unanswered issues that needs to be met, and there needs to be justice for those that inflicted violence on those defenseless people. I'll never understand that, where you have a protest of hundreds of people just protesting. They're not trying to overthrow, they're not trying to inflict any harm or property damage, and they're just protesting in the animated way that they should because they're angry. And then all of a sudden the opposing force responds in firing upon the people and killing men, women, and I don't know, children. I'm pretty sure children was involved in that. It's like, to me, that's just how should I say, just going overboard with the response by killing people because you don't agree with them protesting, because you think they're going to take your power. So you respond in bullets and bombs or whatever case to the people that's protesting. That's overkill, no pun intended. So that's a beautiful thing that's happening in Sudan, and I'll keep people abreast of what's happening as it opens up in Sudan. Now, as we all know, a lot of countries go through these type of conflicts. This is nothing new, and unfortunately, a lot of it happens in Africa. There's all over the place. There's the Bosnia, of course. There's Germany and the Jews, and then you have Chinese and the Tibetans, and then you have in Brazil the people fighting against the police, the government, whatever, using the police to fight against the people. In poor areas, the favelas in Brazil. So this is nothing new. This is things that have gone on around the world for centuries, for thousands of years. So how do we come to a conclusion? Usually, let's just start. The conflicts can be rooted in political issues, social inequalities, poverty, economic stagnation, poor government services, high unemployment, environmental degradation. It could be, lack of water or lack of resources that's not getting to the people, and all of a sudden they're revolting because the government's not properly instituting things that are going to save the people from, this disaster, natural disasters. And there's also individual incentives. As I said before, when you get precious and you put on that ring, there are people that want to take control. In order to maintain their control and centralize their power in their hands, they have to exact violence on others when people start noticing these things. And they have these personal incentives where it's like, depending on outside forces that may be meddling in their business, they say, hey, man, you know what? You have those mines over there. So you have those natural resources of gold. I'll cut you off a little bit if you just maintain power in this country and don't worry about the people. So, there's those own personal incentives that go on. The greed, personal greed, and that's crazy. That creates these conflicts. So how do we get past this? Is it possible? Can we get past this if we sit down and hammer these issues out? Now, it's funny to me that in this agreement that they actually want to start an independent technocratic government. And that's not just based on political affiliation, but more your skills and your particular skills or in a particular area. Like whether it's, botany or engineering or mathematics, trigonometry, sciences, all these things. And it's interesting that this is coming from these group of folks. Not that it's not possible, but there are a few people that have talked about technocratic societies and them wanting to start that, and it's better for society and with an equal distribution of the resources and wealth and all that is generated. But I'm interested to see how this kind of flows with the Sudanese people in the next 5 to 10 years by having this technocratic society. Because I actually support that. And the things that I was doing with the it's just the Global Challenges Foundation that I submitted for. I created a document dealing with world issues, and I submitted to the Global Challenges Foundation. It was a program out in Sweden because of the global issues that we're having. They asked people all over the world to come up with ideas on how we solve these issues that are affecting us on this planet. And I submitted my document, and it didn't get chosen, but I'm still pushing forward with it. As I make my advances in this business with Lyfeblood.com, pushing this podcast as it being the voice of Lyfeblood.com. At some point, I will present it to you guys. And if you guys do a Google search on it now, you could look it up. Look up Global Challenges Foundation, of Lyfeblood, submittals, or whatever the case may be. You'll see me pop up in the Googles. You know what I mean? The Googles. So how do we solve these issues? I think you got to deal with one issue at a time. I think You got to promote inclusive development, promoting a commonality regardless of a religion or ethnic affiliation, like the Hutu and Tutsis. As everybody know, that what was happening in Rwanda, that huge massacre that took place. I think there's got to be a commonality that has to be drawn so you can see each other as one people, which is important. And it reminds you, keep in mind that whole thing that was going on with the Hutu Tutsis. There was some outside influence, meddling that was, of course, during the time when the Belgians came into the Rwanda and separated people and created this division, even though they were like literally one people. And how these people met was over like generations of migrations, and which ended up in Rwanda. And from what I understand, they shared the same language and certain things within the culture. So they were almost like one people. It's just the only thing that separated them was probably those minor differences. But what really drove that wedge was, of course, the meddling of the Belgians. But that's a whole nother topic to talk about. But again, you have to promote inclusive development amongst the people. Probably that what you can do is create one Africa theme that'll you could tie all these ethnicities together under one language. And that is something that's being pushed forward by some countries in Africa by making Swahili the common language in Africa. There are a lot of different ethnicities. There's like, if not hundreds, there's thousands of different ethnicities in Africa. But I think it's important to see the Africanness with all people on the continent. And one thing that can combine everybody or share that relation is the language, which is key. And I believe that could be one step by having Swahili as the major language on the continent. Two is reduce inequality amongst groups. You got to encourage the equal distribution of resources, food, and things of the economic matter. This is something that is being an issue in South Africa because of the majority of the people in South Africa being poor, and you have a small minority that's kind of controlling the wealth. Now, it doesn't matter if it's white or black. This is a common problem that goes across national borders, across country borders. Again, you're dealing with that ring precious mentality of greed. And there has to be agreement that there can be an equal distribution of the resources and the wealth to the people. Now, to me, from a business, political standpoint, I think that makes more sense than trying to kind of corral wealth to a small group of people. Because if you have everybody getting an equal amount of the resources and monies that is generated from the country, that's more people that can pay in taxes. That's more people that can stimulate the economy by, buying cars and buying clothes and buying buildings and property and all these things. That should pretty much spark the local economy in the area. So it doesn't make sense to have the majority of the people in the country poor because they have no money to have a thriving economy. We have to deal with those things, and of course, not just in Africa but around the world. Number three, we got to tackle unemployment. I don't know how jobs is going to play out, because in previous conversations I even said that jobs may disappear because of technology and automation and artificial intelligence. So I don't know in what way jobs can play in the near future, in the next 20 or 30 years. But if we're going to talk about jobs, of course, maybe those natural resources that come from the country, you can generate some sort of service that you can ask the people to provide by farming, by in the mines or whatever, and they could be as safe and as humane as possible in order to have things for people to do. Number four is dealing with the national international control of illegal trades. Again, as a country, you have to stamp out corruption. As long as corruption takes place in small kernels within society, it always has the opportunity to grow and outreach and overtake the government. So you can't leave corruption just sitting on the side, especially for an early country that's getting its feet stabilized. You have to be able to deal with corruption. You can't leave it alone. You have to snuff it out, and it's for the betterment of the country in the long run, in the next 50 to 100 years. You can't capitulate to it. You can't bend your knee to it. It has to be routed out and taken out for the benefit of the society. Because if you want to make advances and come up to the level of a modern society, which is Western society, which is European society or Asian society, whatever the case may be, specifically with African element, you have to root it out and be steadfast in making that happen. Because you'll never get anywhere if you have places where the corruption can flourish or just be in the shadows, and the next thing you know, it'll overtake you because you didn't pay any attention for the next 5 or 10 years as you're developing the government. And lastly, you got to reduce private incentives. You have to deal with greed. You have to deal with it. You have to go to the letter of the law. You have to go to the letter of the law, because if you don't, again, in the infancy of a young government country, it will not have an opportunity to grow in what it should be if you do not erase the greed part of it. And you must have principles in regards to money. If you can't, at this sensitive time of the government, the country will never gain traction to stabilize. You got to stick to those rules, man. Stick to those rules. Especially, I have to say again, especially when you're in your infancy of growing the country or the young government. Be steadfast and be mindful of outful agitation. That's the next thing, because you don't know if there could be outside forces that see you have natural resources and says, hey, you know what? It will go to that corrupt government and say, hey, you know what? You have gold, you have silver. We can help you out. Don't worry about the other people. And this is the issues when you have outside meddling. That again can cripple the progress of you having a stabilized government, and more so a stabilized country. So you have to, again, route out those that are the turncoats and the moles and the people that are just going to sell you out. You got to find them and route them out, man, and that's just geopolitical business. They will find the weakness and they will exploit it, and then it will take your country another 100 years to get on your feet. I think those are some things. I think I've named about 6 things on how you can deal with trying to deal with the conflicts of third world countries, or as they say, developing countries. And the Sudanese people have to consider that, man. And I hope for the best for them. I will repost in this show on Lyfeblood.com on ways where you can give money to the Sudanese people and help them along. It's important. And keep your eye on the ball on what's going on in Sudan, man, because I also understand maybe the military may not want to relinquish their power in the Sudanese government and try to hold on to it for another 4 to 5, 10 years. So it's important that the international community keeps their eye on what's happening in Sudan. And the funny thing is, I also noticed that I was wondering why the Kenyan president Uhuru Kenyatta is not involved with Sudan, because it's right next. As a matter of fact, they actually have an East African Federation that involves, a few different countries. It's Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, South Sudan, Tanzania, and Uganda. They are starting this East African Federation. They're making a single federated sovereign state. So they're working on that. But then I found out, that in Khartoum, where they're dealing with formulating this young government between the TM. What was it? The TM. I'm sorry. Sometimes I forget the name. The TMC and the Sovereign Council. That's North Sudan, and then there's South Sudan, which is trying to be a part of the East African Federation with these other countries, African countries. So I don't know. I don't even know why Sudan split, but that's a whole nother story for another show. But I encourage this positive trade, developing communities and thriving cities. You want to educate the young generation to be leaders of tomorrow. You got to develop the infrastructure for the natural resources in the land, and possibly hoping to rejoin Sudan together to be a part of possibly this East African Federation. So, yeah, man. So, much love to Sudan. So we're going to go into the first song of the show. What is that first song? Nakai Love, coming out of Los Angeles. Her song is Conflicted. Love this joint. Nice slow jam. So enjoy the tune, Lovely Lady, and an even lovelier song, Conflicted.
Ooh, a GCOM exclusive. You right there, and I'm right here. We're in a predicament. Oh shit, oh shit. Problem is, I fucked your friend, and the first thing I'm thinking is you said you ain't seen him in a few years. Well, you got some integrity, I got some inside of me, yeah. We gotta figure it out if we're gonna let it dry. Cause I got some energy and you got that synergy. And since we're together now, let's make some frenemies. Cause I keep looking at you. I was free at the time, but I really think I need you. Well, if you hold me, you can show me slowly. We can be homies. Let you get to know me, like really know me. Well, if you hold me, you can show me slowly. We can be homies.
What it do?
It's GCOM Radio
I am one of the flyers.
on iHeartRadio.
Like really know me. I don't know what to do, and you don't have a clue. But if I got with the crew, then who would I be to you? Well, I gotta let my feelings speak for themselves. And my intuition's telling me I should keep this to myself. And my heart is saying, why would you do that? We live one life at a time, and I'm gonna live mine. Take a leap of faith. See what ends up on your plate. This is GCOM Radio, powered by Lyfeblood.com. Come join, be a lifer. Practice dollar power and build financial independence.
Yo, yeah, man, that was good tunes, man. Love to hear that. She was getting at me last week on when that song was going to be placed, and its place is right now, man. It's a beautiful joint. It's a beautiful joint. So, what are we going to get into next? One controversial topic, and that's always been spoken about in hip hop: homosexuality in hip hop. Yeah, it came up because there was an article that came out on allhiphop.com a little bit ago where 50 Cent was clowning Lil Nas X and Young Buck for being gay. And I guess you know a whole deal with 50 Cent beefing with Young Buck and him cutting him off a G Unit. And that was a long time thing, and he hasn't been a part of G Unit for a while. But I guess 50 Cent wanted to clown him on the IG because Young Buck took a picture with Lil Nas X, and as all of you know, Lil Nas X, the young man that did Old Country Road, came out as gay, and at the end attending the gay pride parade. So Young Buck took a picture with him, and then 50 50 Cent wanted to clown him and saying that he was a part of this parade and threw up a picture of Young Buck and Lil Nas X together. Yo, hey man, people want to get a crack out of that. People want to get a crack out of that. This is my take on it. Who cares? Really, who cares? Who cares? He was trying to clown him by using homosexuality as a weapon against Young Buck. And of course, it screams of as everybody says, toxic masculinity and seeing homosexuality as a weakness. And yeah, man, this is something that we deal with in the black community, man, especially in hip hop. Listen, I don't care about homosexuality. When Lil Nas came out, I was genuinely surprised. I'm not gonna lie. When it came out, I was like, say what? Lil Nas X? He's gay? I thought at first it was just a gag when him showing up at the Pride Parade. I was like, oh, he probably showed up at the Pride Parade just to, to get clicks, and he was there, just throwing out their support. And then slowly, I'm reading, I'm like, I'm reading online. It comes out and gay. I'm like, no, let me reread that. Yo, say word. You know what I mean? I was just more taken by the fact that, it was just, it's not what I expected to hear, especially after that song dropped, Old Country Road, and it blew, and this young man was doing this thing, and all of a sudden, boom, to me, it came out of left field. Now, in 2019, homosexuality, when you see it on the soap operas and the boyfriend of this guy who was a football player turns out to be gay, and it was like Guiding Light business 20 years ago. Now it's like, well, okay, so he's gay, so what? You know what I mean? Or she's gay or lesbian. Okay, well, so what? It's old news now. You know what I mean? It's so old, and I don't think you can ever use that as the shocking reveal in TV anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, really? All right, let me just, I'm going to go and put on my sneakers and go play some basketball. You know what I mean? It's like crazy. But, it just goes to show about the toxic masculinity in the black community and in hip hop. And we have to get over it. There was a lot of chatter that was online, trying to clown Lil Nas X, and he was mentioning it on his Twitter account and saying, yo, if one more person makes, word of my homosexuality, yada, yada, yada. Those are just ignorant people. You know what I mean? Let me just look up something as to prove my point. New artists in R&B. You know what I'm about to say, right? R&B. So you know what I'm about to say. So them trying to clown Lil Nas X is stupid. Because you do know that we've listened to a whole lot of gay artists and we never knew was gay. All right, let's see it. Let me see if I can find it here. I should have brought up this list from before, but man, I don't even remember, man. I ain't gonna remember all these artists that were gay. Let me see here. See if I can find this. That's not right. Is that right? Let's see. Who? Nah, B, for real? Okay, so everybody knows like the typical artists that we always know that are gay. That was Luther Vandross. I was listening to Luther Vandross for a long time, and until he came out as gay, and I was like, yo, say word. Who Let me see if I can bring it up here, because I should have brought up this list before, but I didn't do that. I should have done that. I should have done it before, but I didn't. It was just something that came out. I want to see here. Josephine Baker. I don't know about Josephine Baker, but this ain't Josephine Baker. Bessie Smith, of course, RuPaul, Frankie Knuckles. Say word. Who knew? They have who is this person? I don't know these people. I want to know like the artists that everybody knows who are Frank Ocean. He came out as bisexual. Rasan Patterson. I don't know about that, but Who knows? Oh my God. They're not even give you. They're not Little Richard. We all know Little Richard was there. Tracy Chapman, Michelle Indigio-Cello. Those are obvious. Johnny Mathis. For real? Yo, Johnny Mathis. Okay. Who was that dude that did the Copacabana? I forgot. Yo, he came out as gay. I'm like, for real? You know, I mean, this just goes to show that there are a lot of artists that we were listening to when we were young, we were teenagers in our 20s, and all of a sudden they came out as gay, and it's like, but we still was bouncing to their music. So now all of a sudden it's like, it's a big deal now that they came out. Now all of a sudden the music is trash or the music is not as good. Come on, man. Who was the guy that says, oh my God, oh my God. I gotta see. And I used to listen to pop stars. This dude, he had the record, and I used to listen to this cat, and I never knew he was a big pop star in the 80s. What is it? Let me see. Oh, here he is. George Michael is his name? George Michael. Yeah, George Michael. He didn't come out saying he was gay. He was just a pop star. All the women loved him. They was throwing panties on the stage. They was screaming for George Michael. He had the official record we always played back in the day when I was young. And then it came out that he was gay. Say word. But in 2019, it's not that serious. So if we can accept artists from who we listened to back in the 70s and 80s and the 90s, why is it such an issue now in hip hop for Lil Nas X to come forward and say, hey, I'm gay? At this point, it should be like, oh, word, okay, cool. Now, I'm a heterosexual man, right? A heterosexual man, listen to hip hop. I went through those phases of the hardcore and, you know, all that. And then finding out about, you know, Luther Vandross, and that's when it was like, Guardian Light type of deal. But now it's like, okay, well, you know, all these people are gay, and what difference does it make? What difference does it make? What you do in your bedroom or say the green room is your business. If you as a heterosexual man don't want, and I totally understand it as a heterosexual man, you know, look, let me be real. I'm going to be honest. In my 30s and 40s, I get approached by more gay guys than I do straight women. Let's be real. More gay guys than straight women. Why? Because, of course, I think it's the gender roles that the sexes stick to as far as who should approach who when it comes to the male-female. So men are usually the ones that approach a woman. So women have been raised in that thought process, so they usually let the man take the first step. That could be why. The other thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, whether you're gay or not, you're still wired in a male sense where you're going to be the aggressor, and gay men can be the aggressor. Now, again, not all gay men are flaming. So even gay men may not know or pick up on the signs that a guy that they're interested in could be gay. So they come forward, or they put their best foot forward to see if that person on the receiving end, no pun intended, is going to grab the hook and say, well, yeah, this is because there is no one way a gay man expresses himself. You got the flamboyantly flaming, and then you got the dude that's regular that never knew. I remember my boss when I used to work at Borders Books and Music. I was on the music floor, and the floor manager for, I think, the books on the lower floor, because the music was on the third floor, he was a cool dude. He reminded me of the dude from the main singer from Jump Around, from the rap song, jump around, jump up, and get down, or whatever. I can't remember, because he had a low crew cut, always wore leather jackets, boom, and he would walk to the floor. And then when he was leaving, he brought this dude along with him. I'm like, oh, you leaving? Because he worked there for like 2 years or something like that. I worked at that store for like 3 years. He worked there for 2. I guess he was decided to move on, and he brought this dude with him, and he was like, yeah, here's my partner. I was like, oh, I'm like in my 20s. Oh, okay, cool. And then after the fact, the person said, oh, he's gay, right? I'm like, what? I did not know. So it goes to show that not all gay men are flamboyant or stereotypically flamboyant. Some of the dudes is low. He was always low key, walked straight, and he was a regular cat. But me, I was not paying attention. You know what I mean? Excuse me. So at this point, we got to deal with our own toxic masculinity, and there's a space for gay people, man. And you got to just live and let live. Now they do say Lil Uzi Vert. You know, I may be behind the curve on that one. They say Lil Uzi Vert. I've seen stuff. I don't watch this dude too often. So, but I heard, he is gay too, and he's comfortable within his own skin, and he does his thing. Listen, like I said, if you heterosexual, you know where you fit in. You know what I mean? So if you like listening to, Migos, that's your thing. If you don't want to go say Little Uzi Vert is gay, and you go to your concerts, you know the crowd he's gonna attract. You know the crowds he's gonna attract. You know what I mean? It is what it is. It is what it is. I say for instance, I'm keep it funky. So one of these artists that I know online, I forgot her name. So she's an artist, very eclectic. Her name is, Jesus Christ. Oh man, these things just come out like out the blue. Her name is, I'm gonna hate myself. But anyway, so I was always looking for artists, and I wanted to check out her show. I've seen her for a while, and I was like, let me check out her show. She's cool peoples. Let me see what she's about. So I went to her show, and lo and behold, her whole shtick is, like the Madonna stick. The gay, flamboyant, the trans vestite type switch. And I was there. I went there, and I'm chilling. I'm like, okay, females, and there was women there too. Females do. Oh, wait a second. Oh, this dude's sparkly. And I really started peeping around on the crowd. I was like, oh, word. Her name is Bridget Barkin. That's her name. I was scrolling through my social media. Her name is Bridget Barkin. Great. She's an actress. She does her thing. She's a singer. And I didn't know. Turns out her thing is like on some Madonna tip. So when I saw the gay folks, I wasn't like, I took a beeline for the door. I was like, yo, I gotta get out of here. It was just like, all right, listen, you know who you are. Check out the performance. Let her do her thing. Let her, see the whole thing. And it was in this boxing ring as her stage, and she used that whole theme. And she's a very theme-centric artist. You know what I mean? And every performance has a theme. She's one of those type of musical artists. So the dudes was walking around, dudes in drag, and dudes that was gay, and it was of course females there, and I'm pretty sure they were either bisexual or gay. And I was like, all right, I'm chilling, no big deal. And it was some dudes that was approaching by. I didn't say a word. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I kept it cool. I was in my corner. And then when her performance was done, I said, great performance. I snapped a couple pictures. I still have it in my library. And I went home and I shot it out. That was a great show. That's what's up. And that was it. Now I was like, yo, oh my God, nah, because I'm comfortable in my own masculinity to be like, oh, okay, cool. I got into something that I wasn't aware of, but I didn't just run out and just be an asshole. You know what I mean? People are people are people. So yeah, that's not my crowd that I go with. But if I so happen to be there, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I remember one time back in the day, I knew a guy was gay. I met him in the club a couple times. Back in the day when I was clubbing hard. And this dude was mad cool. And it turned out he was gay at that night. And then I'm going to be honest with myself about it, and I'm speaking to the crowd. And then one time I bumped into him in the street, and I was like, oh, what's up, man? How you doing? Boom, 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 boom. And then I gave off the vibe. I was like, yo, I can't be seen with you. I don't want nobody to be thinking I'm gay. And he caught that vibe, and it was that uncomfortableness. So when that interaction ended and I went about my journey, he went about his, I was like, damn, man, I didn't want to make it seem that, be funny style, but I was funny style. Let's keep it real. I was funny style. I didn't want to, so I kept it pushing. I don't want to think I'm getting, I don't want anybody else think I'm getting. But then, as I got older, I had to check myself. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, bro, you ain't had to treat the dude like he was some leper. You know what I mean? So I had to deal with my own issues on homosexuality. And there's some things that I still don't understand. But, it is what it is. But what I can say is you got to let people have their space and respect people's ways of expression. And we may not understand it as heterosexual men, but we have to at least acknowledge their existence and be like, okay, these people are here. And they've always been there, since biblical times and the battle between homosexuality and straight and all that. It's been since the beginning of human history. And I've come to understand that, okay, and, reading the Bible, because I used to be Christian, and reading the Bible and understanding what's happening in society and reading the Bible and what's going on in the news and historical fact and apart from the Bible and reading history. And I'm like, well, gay people are always there. And it's always this battle. So there was this ever lasting battle between the acceptance of homosexuals and the ostracization of homosexuals. And like, okay, and it's always been there, ebb and flow, up and down from one decade to another, from one societal turn to another. So it's like, at what point do we say we come to terms with it? You know what I mean? So I do my thing, respect Lil Nas X, let him do his thing. If that's his crowd now because he came out, cool. If you're comfortable with going to his show, then cool. If you're not, then then don't be a part of it. You know what I mean? Listen, here's another situation. This is crazy. It came up. So I have a friend. She was lesbian, right? And we're going to end this segment too. We're going to get into the next segment. So, because I'm going over. Man, I don't understand how it goes. So we went to her birthday party, right? She went to a pool. We went to play pool with her. She invited people. We all went out. And, I think at the time I knew she was gay, right? And I'm not going to say her name, even though it wouldn't make a difference. So, and she knows who this is once she listens to the show. So they decided to go to a bar afterwards. And she's going to hate me for this. So she decided to go to a bar afterwards. So we all went to the bar, male and female, right? We chilling, boom, boom, boom. So the security guard stops us and was like, okay, let me see some ID. So they see the ID, she goes in, boom, and then they see ID, boom, and he put the hand out. He's like, nah, bro, you can't come in. I'm like, what? What you mean we can't come in? Yo, you don't know where you at? So me and the dude that came to her birthday party at to play pool, we looked around, was like, and then we noticed it was a whole bunch of women. He was like, oh, wait a second. this is a lesbian bar. Oh, word. So we can't come in? we still was like, yo, we can't come in. So I'm saying though. So he's like, nah, man. And so we like looking past this wall of a security guard, like, him going right, I'm going left. Like, yo, where is she? How come she not coming out to see if we alright? Yo, she never came back out. She dipped on us. And I'm like, to me, it was like, if you knew you was going to that bar, which you suggested, you should have said, yo, this is a lesbian bar. It's not going to work. This is where it ends. Then I'm going to go off and do my thing for my birthday. Or she should have picked a place where everybody could have gone to, because we at least came out for her birthday. It would have been nice for us to, all enjoy her birthday. Nah, she went to the bar and she straight dipped on us. So me and homeboy looked at each other. We was like, oh, hey, man, I guess this is it. So we gave each other daps. Nice to meet. This is the first time I'm meeting this dude there. We gave each other daps. Yo, nice to meet you, bruh. All right, we out. He went his way. I went my way. And I was tight. Yo, I was so tight that night. I was like, yo, she straight dipped on us. I thought that was really foul. This is, man, it's long ago. So, like I said, you respect people's space. You know, if Lil Nas X does his thing, let him do his thing. If you can't go to his shows because it invites a certain crowd, then don't go. Do your, and then if there's a space where everybody's invited, regardless of who people are, and if you're comfortable with your own sexuality, that you're a heterosexual man, then enjoy yourself, man. You know what I mean? And you'll know how to deal with it. You're like, nah, I don't go that way, boom, boom, boom. You know, you checking out the ladies, da 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 da. But yeah, we got to deal with this toxic masculinity in hip hop, man. It's the worst, bro. Because it's there. It's always been there. They just didn't say it. Gay people just didn't say nothing. But now they're like, fuck you. This is who I am. Now it's up to you to deal with it, bro. And it's always been gay people in the music industry in general, in the movie industry, and they were high level execs. Don't act like you didn't know they were there, because they're the one that's cutting the check. All of a sudden you all good, but now you want to start clowning folks in a whole nother. Come on, stop that craziness. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. For the next artist that's gonna come up, two guys. One is Darius Foster. He has a song called Valid off of his EP, A Moment of Clarity. He's coming out of New Jersey. Actually, his original state was New Jersey. Now he lives in PA. Great song called Valid. And right behind this brother is Andy the Crocodile. You know, I like to switch up other than R&B and hip hop. And his album is called Scars and Sounds. He does jazz, rock, and indie folk. And actually, he's the grandson of an Indian musician that's well known. Is SRD Vaidyanathan, and he played the Nadhaswara. I hope I'm saying that right. Please forgive me, Andy the Crocodile. Andy, please forgive me, sir. And he's got his song. It is called Hope. So check these two brothers out.
Yeah. I feel like we started something. Started with no pot to pissing. Started with nobody listening. We ballin' out of Scottie Pippen. I hate to crash the party pimpin'. If ain't about Ferraris 20 deep at Kalahari, then I cannot be a party pimpin'. We moving mighty gaudy pimpin'. That's my 2019 goals. I can throw the ball as far as a kite can go. Brett Favre when he played for the Vikings. Nike sponsored Gypsy Lightning Flow. Bars like Rikers, no bars like bikers, no bars alike. Couch potato all on straight. Meanwhile, Gypsy on his bike. Yeah.
It's GCOM Radio
I am one of the flyers
on iHeartRadio.
Bullshit from the authentic bird. Separate the bullshit from the authentic bird. Yeah. Separate the bullshit from the authentic bird. I feel like we started something. Rob K on the melody, there's nothing you can tell me. I know we gonna be rich soon, babe. Yeah, I feel like we started something. Yeah, Rob K on the melody, there's nothing you can tell me. I know we gonna be rich soon, babe.
love around the world. You are listening to GCOM Radio.
Are you searching for a little hope? Are you looking to rebuild? Are you dreaming but you're wide awake? You can't seem to shake what you're feeling. Look into your
Listen up.
Turn up. You're listening to GCOM Radio.
Is it too fast? Then just take it slow. Did you fall? Then just pick yourself up.
Yeah, that was Darius Foster with the song Valid from the EP A Moment of Clarity. Go check it out. It's on iTunes right now. And right behind it was Andy the Crocodile from his album Scars and Sounds. That song was called Hope. He, of course, as I said before, he just jazz rock and indie folk. And the reason why I picked Andy, because I liked his sound. It's very unique. And to me, it sounds like it should be a part of a movie, a specific scene. It doesn't matter what it is. The scene could be quirky and funny or introspective, and I think that song can fit in that scene. And I really dig his sound. But anyway, as far as the artist goes, I'm getting so much artists that want to be a part of the show. That's crazy, man. And I give it up for the people that are listening to the show, and I like to give it up to the artists that's sharing their music with me, because I really dig their sound, and all the artists that are sharing other artists. This is the community that we want to build. And as we know, I shout out Lil Mo too, and Lil Mo was gonna send me some stuff, but I don't know if she is. If she does, that's great. If not, then it's all well and good. Because she's a whole nother, she's a superstar, you know what I mean? But my thing is, we know that that it's time. It's a crucial time in music business, not just in hip hop, but music business in general, where the power is in the hands of independent artists. And as we all know, the people that are really looking at the numbers, music streaming doesn't do it. But digital downloading is an opportunity for a fair share of monies to go to working artists. And in this time of the internet, we have to realize our own power, and we have to start getting all our ducks in a row to be our own businessmen/artists. It is our time. It is the time of the artist in 2019 and beyond, where now the internet is providing a platform and an opportunity for artists to really take control of their music and the monies that they generate from that. Right now, and in no other time in history has this occurred, but now because of the internet, artists can do that. Now also realize that you have to be on point with your game. You have to promote yourself, and through that, I'll do it. I have this with GCOM Radio. I love music. I always wanted music to be a part of the show. It's been my background. As I said before on the show, I've been an artist in my younger years, and I've always wanted artists to get a fair shake in the business. And I knew by reading books about the music business how treacherous and how conniving the music industry can be, especially to young artists. So now, in this time, with young and old, seasoned and new, the internet provides a platform for you to be independent. And what better way to do that and promote your music but through GCOM Radio? You could promote it yourself, of course, on your page. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. I mean, you could say, why should I go on this guy's show when I could do it myself? Yeah, all the well you can do it yourself. But it's great that we create that network where we can reach out to not just GCOM Radio, but 20 other shows that say, hey, I will play your music too, where you can hear it everywhere and wherever people are listening to podcasts. And you know how podcast is a growing medium, and is now even iHeart is doing a podcast award show. It is the new way for people to communicate, along with the visual aspects of it, like YouTube. People listen to the podcast because if you can't watch it if they're doing something, so they'll listen to it. So that is still a strong medium right next to YouTube. So why not, give it to the podcast and they promote it. So if you reach 500,000 people, they reach 125, or you reach 125, they reach another 125. You expand the audience, or giving the audience an opportunity to be exposed to your music, and they hear it on your page. Oh yeah, that's Lil Mo joint. All right, cool. Yeah. I gotta catch that. And sometimes artists are always not in the forefront or in focus of individuals within your market, and they'll go to another podcast and they'll listen to Joe Rogan. Let's say, for instance, Joe Rogan play music, and Joe Rogan, in between segments, he plays joints. Oh yeah, that's that Lil Mo song. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I was supposed to go buy that. You know what I mean? So this is a way where you keep the attention of your audience and you keep your music out there, because let's keep it real. Again, the establishment radio industry does not play a majority of the music. They still stick to that same business model of taking 7 of the hottest songs, and put them in rotation. And they just recycle. Morning, noon, and night, it's the same songs that you hear. With the podcast industry, you have an opportunity to play a variety of different music and expose it to the audiences, even that are in that mode or outside that mode, that listen to hip hop or don't listen to hip hop, or pop or rock or electronica or EDM or Brit hip hop, or whatever the case may be. They have an opportunity to listen to music that they're familiar with and music that they're not too familiar with. So before we continue with this segment, of course, you know what we got to talk about with the news you need to know. Let's hear that music going.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Around the world and right in your neighborhood, it's the news you need to know.
Humans are one step closer to becoming cyborgs. Researchers from Harvard University, University of Surrey, and Yonsei University have created nanoprobes to record the inner workings of human cardiac cells and primary neurons. In a paper published by Nature Nanotechnology, scientists from Surrey's Advanced Technology Institute and Harvard University have created a number of ultra-small U-shaped nanowire field effect transistor probes for intracellular recording. This technology would be able to record activity of neurons and other electrogenic cells. This would improve the means of mapping brain activity and create better neural prosthetics, which is the foundation of biomedical procedures today. Professor Ravi Silva, director of the ATI, the University of Surrey, said, "This incredibly exciting and ambitious piece of work illustrates the value of academic collaboration. Along with the possibility of upgrading the tools we use to monitor cells, this work has laid the foundation for machine and human interfaces that could improve lives across the world." Dr. Yun Long Zhao from the ATI at the University of Surrey and his team are currently working on novel energy storage devices, electrochemical probing, bioelectronic devices, sensors, and 3D soft electronic systems. Undergraduate, graduate, and postdoc students with backgrounds in energy storage, electrochemistry, nanofabrication, bioelectronics, tissue engineering are very welcome to contact Dr. Zhao to be a part of his work. Eat your heart out, Dr. Miles Dyson. U.S., Russia, and China race to develop hypersonic weapons. Russia and China were promoting their progress in developing hypersonic missiles. Hypersonic means flying faster than the speed of sound, which is 767 miles per hour. Hypersonic missiles are rocket boosted to high altitudes and may be launched over land, sea, and air. They fly faster than any known weapons we know of, 3,000 miles per hour, up to 10,000 miles per hour. That kind of speed may be difficult to detect, shoot down, or avoid. America has tested in hypersonic technologies over the decades since the 1950s. Since the chatter of Russia and China developing these technologies, the U.S. has stepped up their research through public and private funding. The president has approved $3 billion to the development and defense against hypersonic missiles. Current weapons are not capable of defending against these new missiles, so new novel approaches will be needed, like high-powered lasers or beams of electromagnetic energy. In order to keep creating any gaps in defense capabilities, America has to keep up with the progress of other nations when it comes to the cutting edge of defensive, offensive weapons such as the hypersonic missiles. And that is the news you need to know. So, Joss Stone got deported from Iran. Why did Joss Stone get deported from Iran? Iran has this thing where they do not allow women to sing live or perform live by themselves. It is illegal. So she was traveling from another country. Let's see what country she said. Well, she said, posting on Instagram, Stone appears in a video wearing a white headscarf saying, "Well, we got to Iran, we got detained, and then we got deported." She said she knew solo performances by women were illegal, but she still wanted to see Iran. She said she wrote to the Iranian authorities, who placed her on a blacklist, quote unquote, because they believed that she was going to try to perform publicly. And they said they were nice folks. They never gave her any problems, never beat her up, nothing. They were real professional. They just took her in and then turned her right back around, right out of Iran. Hey man, this is what it goes to the last argument, right? In the previous segment, talking about homosexuality and hip hop and being able to deal with different people. And we have to come to terms with that as men. Now, as much of the social advancements that we can have here in the United States of America, and even that is still a struggle in a lot of different ways. You know, even we're dealing with shit that's like really like abortion, and we're considering illegal in certain states, which is considered legal in certain states. And it's like, what are we talking? We go back to the 1950s, and there's this whole battle all over again to push forward and advance ourselves as human beings into the next century. Now, we gotta keep it real that the rest of the world has their own pace. Let's keep it real. The rest of the world has their own rules. What is cool here in the United States may not be cool in Russia. What's cool in Russia may not be good in China. What's good in China may not be good in Iran. And everybody has their own rules. But what we have to do is respect those rules, as asinine as they may be. And when we go to Iran, if women, I don't know if she wasn't going to perform in Iran, she wasn't going to perform. But You can't force yourself to get on stage. Like, give me that mic, I'm performing. You're not gonna do it around. So I don't know why they were so worried that she was gonna get on stage, and who knows. But you just have to respect other countries' rules. Certain part in the Middle East, women have to wear a headscarf, to cover their heads. You have to respect that. You cannot just go about your business and be like, screw this, I'm an American. Again, that's also like a nationalistic ego that you would be taking, thinking you're an American, you can go anywhere you want and do what you want. No, that don't go down. It may go down here in certain ways, but even here has consequences. You're not going to go to a foreign country that speaks another language with a whole nother set of social rules, and all of a sudden you're going to say, well, you guys are backwards, I'm not doing that. No, you may find yourself in the bottom of a jail. And as crazy as we think jails are here, there are worse jails. Trust. I was watching a TV show called about Americans abroad and talking about them doing stupid stuff, and they're in South America and they got locked up in the bang, and it's like dirty and musty and wet, and rodents are up in there, and all they getting is I don't know. Sometimes they ain't never even got food. So sometimes our jails up here can be paradises. You know what I mean? Compared to other countries. So, you just have to respect other countries' rules. Now, even when I was speaking about homosexuality and hip hop, you go to Africa, certain parts ain't getting with that homosexuality. So you beating your chest here, and all of a sudden you go to, a country in Africa, and they're like, you best get that up out of here. So you're not going to take on that beat your chest in front, because in other countries, again, you get shot and killed, and ain't nobody gonna hear nothing from you. And all you're gonna be having is crying family members talking about, damn, I don't know why Jerome got killed. And they may never get justice, because what is America gonna do? If it's one person, they're gonna be like, oh man, it's messed up. And it could be politically bad, but that country's gonna go about its business for the next 50 years and be like, whatever. So get in where you fit in. And when it comes to homosexuality, whether it comes to how women are treated. And I had this conversation with my wife talking about, I don't understand how other countries are like this. And I'm like, hey man, I agree. I agree too. I don't understand why they treat women like that. And there were some African brothers that, that worked at car shops, mechanic shops, and other interactions. And they came off very belligerent to my wife. And I had to step in. I'm like, yo, player, we ain't doing that. You know what I mean? I had to step in and correct shit. But, there's some women, there's some, African men that come from the continent, that come to the States and want to scream on women, because that's how women are, in some areas, women are treated. And nah, man, they ain't going down in the States. You get screamed back too. You know what I mean? And some women will flip off on you and cold cock your ass. You know what I mean? And they gonna have brothers and uncles and all that, and they ain't going for that either. But again, when you go to another country and they got certain rules, you're just gonna have to respect those rules. And while you're staying there and on vacation or whatever like that, and be like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna wear this headscarf. And I mean, what are you to do? And when you see social conflict going on in other countries, maybe it's that time for people to deal with it. Like in China, we have some protests that are happening where people are tired, if I'm correct, tired of how the government is treating the Chinese people, and they're going through their protests. Everyone, and then there was the Middle Eastern, what was it called? Let me see, the Middle East Spring, or Middle. Let me just get the terminology right. East Spring. The Arab Spring, it was called. Yeah, the Arab Spring. And then people were tired of the certain quote unquote puppets in government, and they had their protests, and they had to oust the president or the prime minister or whatever. Every country is going to have its time where it's going to have its own personal growth. Not to say that all of the Middle East is like the Iran. I heard the United Arab Emirates was pretty free. I think Jordan was pretty free. I'm not so sure, more westernized. But there's some countries that hold, and then there's the hardcore countries that, you know, you have the extreme leaning religious sects that want to control the country and how women are treated. What are you gonna do? It's just the way it is. So I mean, and we can promote as much as we can here about equality and racial equality, gender equality, and all these things that are happening in the States. But when you go to other countries, you got to respect how they have their own rules. You know what I mean? So, and at some point they will come to their understanding, maybe in the next 50 or 100 years. But if you are going to travel and it's not vacationing and you're going to resettle in another country, understand its rules, know how the people, interact with each other between genders and males and females. And if you are a certain way, in the specifically homosexual, just go to a country where they're more open-armed about it and accepting of it. Because you might, what's the reason of fighting all of that you did in America and you decide to move to another country like Jordan or something, and they're gonna be like, hell no, and are you gonna protest all over again? Nah, I don't think you're gonna want to do that. You fought that fight already. It's good to go to a society where it is inclusive. So let me get out of here. Thank you guys for listening. I try to keep it tight within the minutes that I had, but there was just things I just wanted to get off my mind. So if you did stick it through, thank you. I appreciate it. And go to Lyfeblood.com, folks. Go to Lyfeblood.com. Be a lifer. Make your connections with the folks that are on the platform, or build your platform or build your network on Lyfeblood.com. If you're an inventor or a musician or ballet dancer, whatever it may be, microbiologist, engineer. If you want to create, I recently just said that on my platform. What do you call it? My social media handle on IG at Lyfeblood. Even if you want to run your own R&D, your research and development, campaign for it, saying this is what you're doing. This is what you want to introduce to humanity, to the world, and later on sell it or give it to nations. But you need to get some funding started, and you may not get funding from the traditional ways. Get it from the network. Get it from the people. Get it from your state, your city, your town. Get it from the world. Build that campaign. Let people send money to you, and then so you can get jump started on this new project in your R&D work that you're doing. This is what Lyfeblood is about. It's about decentralized funding. It's about seeking others to join you in your forward-thinking ways. Your ideas, your ideals, your vision. It's about creating that new community, that new city, that new town with all the latest technologies in a technocratic society. This is what we're building. I'm gonna start using that word, that technocratic society. I knew the word, but I never used it before. I'm gonna throw that in the vocabulary a lot more as we're building this new technocratic society by using our skills and advancing humanity. So again, I appreciate I appreciate you guys listening to the show. Come next week again and listen to more dope artists and hear more different compelling topics. And if you have anything to say, go to my @Lyfeblood account or GCOM Radio. That's GCOM_radio on IG, and send me some messages. I do appreciate it. Thank you for listening again, and we are out of here. Peace.